Hi, my name's Abigail, now Erb. I was previously Abigail Heringer. I currently live in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I graduated South Salem in 2013.
Zero, one. Let's get started.
Today we're joined by 2013 graduate Abigail Heringer Erb. Abigail's time as a Saxon was marked by her participation on our girls' golf team, the DECA program, and all the school dances we used to have as a school. After graduating as a Saxon, she earned a degree in finance from Linfield University, which led to her working in several investment analyst positions until she went on ABC's The Bachelor and Bachelor in Paradise after graduating from college and working all those jobs. Since her time on both The Bachelor and Bachelor in Paradise, where she met her now husband, Noah, Abigail fills her time doing social media marketing, deaf advocacy work, which includes just publishing her very first book, The Deaf Girl, a memoir of hearing loss, hope, and fighting against all odds. And if her Instagram feed is any indicator, she's in full house remodel mode and in the new mama to a puppy, Maki. Abigail, welcome to the program. We're so excited to have you.
Thanks for having me. It's been a while since I've talked anything South Salem, so I'm excited.
Well, we're excited to get into all of that. And I'm wondering, let's start at the end of everything where we are today. You recently just bought a house. You moved across the country, or at least to the central part of the country. You've gotten through a wedding day. Congratulations on that. Your book is now published. You're living in the puppy years with Maki. Have you been able to catch your breath yet?
I'm definitely glad that life is slowing down. It was a really busy year for sure, but it was all good things, so I can't complain. But yeah, no, the wedding went great. The book tour, the release of the book, that was about 3 years in the making. So just to be done with that and it's out in the world and just being present in Oklahoma. We've been here for a year now, and just so much of it is still very new. So still kind of catching our footing here, but it's all been good things.
You've lived in California, you've lived in Oregon, you've lived in Washington, Ohio, you've lived in New York City. What is it about Tulsa that draws you in? And
Yeah, I never pictured myself living in Oklahoma. Noah, my husband, when he first mentioned he was from Oklahoma, I think that was the first person I have ever met from Oklahoma. So I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. But I think really just the community, the people here are just so nice, so incredible. And it was really fun living in bigger cities like New York and California. And I'm so glad I did my 20s in those cities and really got out kind of my little bubble. But I think I just really miss a smaller community and just a slower pace of living and having a car and being able to drive places. So yeah, there were a lot of pros in Tulsa for us.
well, if I understand right, your parents just moved to Tulsa too. Is that correct?
They did. Yep, they just got here about 2 weeks ago. Yeah, my sister actually moved to at the
Okay.
beginning of the year. So we're working on getting the whole family here. My two younger brothers are still in Washington and San Diego.
Oh, that's great. Well, hello to the entire Herringer family, especially your brothers, who I had the honor of having on my caseload. Shout out to Alistair and Stuart, too. Hey, as I was reading your book, first of all, it's available for anyone who wants to find it. It's available in written and in audible formats. Thank you for getting to hear you speak and read your own book was pretty remarkable too. How was that experience recording the book after you had already spent so much time writing it?
It was weird for sure. I think just reading it out loud. It was about 2 full days of doing the audio recording because you have to read through it and then reread parts because I mispronounce a lot of words. I think that's just one of the parts of having a hearing loss is that's a very common thing. So it was a lot of going back and correcting. But I think at one point we were just like, I think I was getting a little frustrated, and the guy recording, he was like, honestly, I think it's perfect because it's just a very kind of accurate representation of how you talk and so forth. So I think that was just a really cool way to be able to kind of share my story, but a very realistic aspect of it too. It's not going to be perfect, but it was a lot of work. I knew writing a book would be a lot of work, but it was a lot more work than I thought it would be.
Yeah, I can only imagine, especially all, just all the different takes you have to do and the recording, the process that
Mhm.
exists. An entire book and reading your own words would be an experience. You talk a lot about the journey to authenticity and discovering your true identity. Um, as I read through the book, I was really both impressed. I was impacted by your journey to get to that point. Can you share a little bit about that yourself? Just what it's been to become someone who is now proclaiming on a the title of a book, the front of a book, the deaf girl, even though at times
Mhm.
you wanted to shun that identity, you didn't want to be known as the deaf girl. You share a lot about those experiences. What can you share with us today?
I think a lot of people might look at my story and think it's a very unique story. I don't have a hearing loss. I can't relate to that. But I think there's a lot of universal themes that I kind of dealt with my disability that other people might deal with their own individual aspects. And I think a big part of it is navigating. I mean, I'm sure a lot of students at South can probably relate to this, but high school can be a really hard time for a lot of people. You have so many different social groups. You're trying to figure out who you want to be and what you want to do with life, but you're only 16 years old and there's so many elements. And for me, it was a really hard time. I had a lot of great support and great teachers, but it was just going to be a really hard time, anyways. And I think a lot of it came with confusion, especially around my disability of, how much do I want to talk about it? But I want to fit in. I want to be friends with the cool kids, but I also need a little bit more help and accommodations, but it's too nerdy for me to ask for those. And so it was just a lot of kind of internal conflict. And I think just after graduating high school and getting out of my bubble and, moving to all these different places and being able to do really cool experiences like go on a dating TV show really pushed me out of my comfort zone and ultimately led me down the path to where I felt comfortable enough to, yell from the rooftops that, I'm deaf and I want to share my story. And so that's kind of how I ended up there. I mean, it's definitely, that was a much quicker way of saying it than how it actually played out. But
Yeah, and I think about the that what's within the book, right? The all those stories, and I don't want to spoil any of it. Go for anyone that's interested. Please go listen or go read the book. It's an incredibly written book. As I read through it, I just clung on every word, every story. There are times where I wept. There's times where I was laughing along with your stories. There's times where I could certainly empathize, but also connect to so much of it and the process of discovering yourself, discovering who you are. Both was an independent journey, if I can say that. Like it was your own journey, and yet you had some people in your life. I think about your first friend in Ohio and your friends in college who saw you for you as your whole person and went out of their way to say, gosh, I'm going to walk with you home to to the dorm room to make sure you've got your battery for the cochlear implant.
mhm.
That gift in that moment, what that meant to you that you'd never experienced. And then Noah, your experience with Noah. And of course, the through line of your mom and who she's been, both for you and your sister. I'm just wondering, as you've balanced that, it's me as an independent woman going through life, figuring this out, but also those in your life who have helped you. What's been that experience for you? How important have been those people been to your own journey, and how much of it's been your own internal motivation?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. And I think it kind of goes back to, it really is something I think a lot of people deal with. And I think for me, it was I wanted to be as independent as I could be. I got a job when I was 16. I was so excited to live on my own and all of these things. And I think I always saw my disability as the one thing kind of holding me back, where, people wanted to help and they wanted to advocate for me, but I think I kind of viewed it as, no, I need to figure this out on my own. I don't want the help. And I think a lot of kids can kind of relate to that of, they're over their parents telling them what to do, even though it's good intentions. You just feel like it's my life. I want to figure out what I want to do with it. And with that, I mean, I definitely made a lot of mistakes and everything, but it was definitely a learning journey of, it's okay to ask for help. And the reason that these people want to help is because they love you and they care about you. And once I had that realization and I let my parents and my friends and Noah, step in and help advocate for me, I realize it's really a win-win. I'm not giving up any sort of independence or I'm being codependent or anything like that. I think it's just recognizing that people want to help, people want to learn more, and people want, if they love and care about you, they want to help advocate for you. And it was a lesson that I wish I learned earlier. I think my life would have been much easier, but I'm glad I got there. I'm glad that I got those experiences that allowed me to get there.
I'm really ashamed to admit, though, that part of our public education system was failing you, that there were those who weren't helpful and weren't advocates. And you did have to have either step up or, people step in and be that voice for you. What was the experience like in some of our classrooms, especially here in Salem Kaisers? You grew up going to Candelaria and Salem Heights and Leslie and South. What were some of the uglier sides of humanity that you saw in those times?
Yeah, I definitely talked about it in the book. I had, two different experiences with teachers going through South. But, at the time I was, very angry and very hurt and so forth. But I think as I get older and the more people I talk to, I think it really just boiled down to it was just a lack of education that those teachers had around, hearing loss and cochlear implants. Because my sister was a year and a half older and she had a cochlear implant as well. And so we had a lot of the same teachers. And I think just the issue that her and I had was it, in a way, I think we were trying to take on the role of educating the teachers, but it's that weird dynamic between, okay, it's a high school student trying to explain this to an adult. And, I think we just realized it's just a lack of education. And I think that's just what really motivated me to want to write the book and just keep sharing so that way teachers can, look at someone like me who has a cochlear implant and I'm able to hear you and talk on this podcast. But that doesn't mean, okay, I don't need anything else, or that doesn't mean I'm missing something or have to prove that I'm deaf enough to need certain accommodations. So I think it really just boiled down to maybe we were just one of the first that came through South with the cochlear implant. And how can we educate people so that those experiences don't happen to another student, with a cochlear implant or another disability. And it's not fun, but, each opportunity is a learning opportunity as well.
This seems like a great opportunity to take a quick pause and highlight the fact that Abigail's book just published, and we were able to get 5 copies of it that we will put out at the front of our office. So if you're listening to this and have access to South Salem High School, know that if you'd like a free copy of her book, you can come by at any time. Just come to the counseling office and let us know, and we'll make sure you get a copy of her book until all of them are gone. Thanks so much, and enjoy the rest of the episode. I was really impressed with how you spoke to that, with sharing your vulnerability, but also sharing that being willing to educate others. And, for me, there are several learning opportunities in your book and in some of the podcasts I've listened to with you too, that stood out. I think about your comment that, you know, disability is never one size fits all. And even as much as you and your sister share in a diagnosis, your experiences with the implant process, your experiences with learning and language development differed. And I'm curious, what do you mean when you say that a disability or an illness is never a one size fits all?
Yeah, I think, a really easy way to put it is like siblings. You would think everyone growing up in the same house, to the same parents, same routine, that they would all be very similar. And I feel like all of my siblings and I, we are very different. And I think a lot of siblings can feel that way. And that was just kind of the message I was trying to stress with, disability is I think it's easy for people And it's kind of a comfort thing for them to, I think, to put somebody in a box because that's what they understand. They think, okay, you're deaf, you need sign language, or you're not able to hear and talk. That's the box that I'm putting you in. But really, it's such a spectrum. I have full, profound hearing loss. So I have zero hearing, but I don't use sign language. I have a cochlear implant. So that's not in a box that a lot of people are familiar with. Some people might have moderate to severe hearing loss. So they still have a little bit of hearing, but they might use sign language. And so that was just what I was trying to convey with that message is just because someone says I'm deaf, don't resort to, oh, I need to use sign language or I need that, you need this. I think it's just asking the person and, seeing if they're comfortable talking about, okay, can you, like, what kind of hearing loss? What do you need from me? And just have that open mindset of everyone's situation is going to be so different. How can I best accommodate that without assuming?
Yeah, I love that approach. And I think it's so important, both as a friend, as a parent, as a partner, as a teacher, an educator, as a counselor, to come in with that, that sense of, how can I best be helpful in this moment? What assumptions am I making that aren't accurate, that could even be harmful? To me, I like that. As I was reading through that was such a great reminder to myself, or even learning experience to myself, as I serve students that come in, and 100 different students are going to come in with 100 different stories. That I just really
Mhm.
appreciated you speaking on that and sharing your own experiences. And how can we always be better? How can I be growth oriented? How can I be a better version of the counselor that I am? So thank you for that. Another really poignant moment that stood out for me was when it was on a podcast interview that I listened to, but you also mentioned it in the book, was talking about listening breaks. Um, the listening breaks that you have. And honestly, this was something that in my own ignorance, I have to apologize for, that I even have to say this out loud. But my assumption was, I think I probably aligned with a lot of people in this world, unfortunately, that we just assume you want to listen all the time. You want to hear noise, noise. Why wouldn't you want to hear noise? And yet those listening breaks, how important they are to you, to be able to step away from all that you are hearing, all that input, audibly.
Mhm.
Can you share a bit about that, from your own
Yeah.
experience?
Yeah, so I mean, it's definitely kind of twofold for me. I think the first thing is it's weird for people to hear this, but silence is truly my natural state. I go to bed in silence, I wake up in silence, I take showers in silence. And so for me, that is just like comfort. That is what I look forward to at the end of the day because that's just, I spend most of my time in silence. And I think for hearing people, that's a weird concept to wrap their heads around because when are you guys ever in true silence? I feel like if you ever got put in a white room, it could drive you crazy. I mean, you're so used to hearing some sort of white noise around you. So it is a weird concept to explain. I love silence. But then another part of it too is since hearing is not my natural state of being, it's a lot of work every single day. And so every time I put my processor on, it's my brain constantly going in overdrive to, what was that sound? Like the refrigerator running or something beeping. I'm like, is that the refrigerator? Is that the dishwasher? Is it the washing machine? Whereas Noah, my husband, he knows right away based on like the tone of the beeping or something like that, just to kind of give an insight to just all the questions that I have to ask myself to fill in the blanks of things that I'm not sure what the sound is. So that's why I love listening breaks. But that was actually something I learned of very recently. I just thought, like, am I a weird for not enjoying having my cochlear implant on? It was a gift. I should be very thankful for it. And it was weird. But then the more people I met that had cochlear implants and we shared our stories and experiences, we were like, wait, you love to do that too? And so now I preach it from the rooftops of if you have a cochlear implant, take a listening break. Your mood will instantly be better. It's a great stress reliever.
Hmm. I love that. I love that. And I love that for me, it was a moment of reflecting on, oh my gosh, I am stepping into this space, of learning. realizing that I'm coming at it from like a deficit based, ignorant viewpoint of like, well, why wouldn't someone want to just be listening all the time? And instead, it was looking at it as, oh, there's not a deficit here at all. Actually, Abigail's natural state is the preferred state for her. It is, and for so many that it is. It takes so much work to have to do all that little math and figuring out where sounds and noises are coming from. And even just that story for me as someone that, is coming new and fresh into this space and into this conversation, was that educated me. And so I just wanted to thank you for that and apologize, obviously, that was
And
even
that's the
who I was coming into a conversation with.
And that's the thing is, I never want people to feel like they have to apologize or that they're being ignorant. I mean, that's the whole point of the book and having these conversations. It's just educating and learning from ourselves. And, I just never want people to feel like, I mean, obviously, don't be widely offensive when you're talking to someone that has a disability, but I just never want people to feel like you have to walk on eggshells or, I mean, it's different for everybody, but personally, I just think the more conversations, open conversations you can have about it, the better. So,
Oh, I appreciate it. And thanks again for joining us today. Let's launch into some of those main questions that we always ask our guests. These questions are brought to us by the Saxon Success Fund, which is a nonprofit started in the last few years to support students of present and past through capital projects and school physical improvements to our building, but also to provide scholarships to students who want to further their education post South Salem High School. So thanks to the Saxon Success Fund for these questions and sponsoring our podcast. Question number one, Abigail, knowing who you are today and all that you've got going on, all that you've been through, who helped you get to this part?
ooh, that's a really good question. I think the two teachers that come to mind. So, Mr. Erickson, he was, I think, the yearbook kind of newspaper teacher. I never actually had him in the classroom, but he was the girls' golf coach. And, that to me was my biggest relief after a long day in school was going to golf practice. And he always just made it so fun. I mean, girls golf is not the most popular thing, but he just always made all of our trips fun, and we just had the most amazing group. So big shout out to him. And then Mr. Dixon, who was the president of the DECA Club, he really kind of sparked my passion for finance and numbers, and just to be able to find something that you're passionate about in high school and you look forward to going to class and going on the DECA trips and all of that. He was just very passionate about it. So I would say those two teachers really saw something that I was interested in and pushed me in that direction, which I think is the best thing that, someone in your position, a high school teacher, can do.
Speaking of your high school years, there's something in the epilogue that I was really struck by. I'm going to read it to you if that's okay, even though it's your words, but I want everyone to hear this part. Um, I'm still young with more growing to do and a lot of life to live, but if there's anything I can hope for in the future, it's that I can aim to reach others facing similar struggles, whether it's navigating between communities or reconciling disability with personal identity. Maybe there's someone out there like high school Abigail, unsure of where she fits in, if she isn't capital D deaf, but also isn't hearing. What advice would you give that version of yourself or anyone that's here at South Salem High School right now? What
Mm-hmm.
advice would you give?
Yeah, I think the biggest advice I wish I could give myself would just be you'll get there. I think there's so much pressure when you're in high school to know who you are or have your friends for life. You need to have the best friend group
Hmm.
or be the best in the sport that you're doing and all of these things, the best grades. And it's a lot of pressure for a high school student. And I just wish I would have told myself that just because you don't get this one opportunity or you might not be the most comfortable with your disability, you will get there. Are you having friendship troubles? Why are you not able to have as many best friends as other people, as so forth? You'll find your people. You just need to find what you're passionate about and so forth. And I wish I just would have been able to take a lot of that pressure off of myself. And it doesn't need to be perfect. You'll get there and you'll be happy.
I love that. What a gift to give to students too, and that because there is such a large amount of pressure right now that they're facing as they're navigating these 4 years, which can be really, really difficult 4 years. But to be able
Mm-hmm.
to just take a breath, take a beat, and remind ourselves, like, hey, you're gonna figure it out. You'll get there. Just keep moving
Mm-hmm.
forward. Yeah, thank you for that.
Exactly.
Similar question three, what's one thing that you've learned since graduation that you wish you knew, something that you wish you knew in high school?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just getting out of your comfort zone. I think it's easy to kind of fall into, well, I've been friends with these people for so long, or I think I should like this, or I should move here. And just reflecting on the last, well, graduated in 2013. So, yeah, 11 years. And I think about all the big milestones in my life and the times that I was just the happiest. And it was all from doing something new and something that was scary at the time and just getting out of my comfort zone. And your 20s are the time to do that. So I think just taking full advantage of the freedom that you have after you graduate high school, and see what you can do with it. But take risks. The bigger the risk, the bigger the reward.
If you can think of those risks in your own life, what was it for you as you think back on that advice? What were those risks, or what, if you're comfortable
Yeah.
sharing, what are the things that pushed you out of your comfort zone to make you who you are today?
So I can think of three, and they're all kind of very different. But I think the first one was pretty small, but I just remember it being so scary at the time. And it was switching my job field from real estate investment analyst, which I thought that's what I was supposed to do with my finance major. Hated it. So I switched over to budgeting for a event planning company, and it seemed so small, but it was a whole new industry. I was leaving everything I knew, how to relearn everything, but that was the best decision. It was the best company, the best job. So and then the second obviously was applying for the show during COVID, very out of my comfort zone, but I think just seeing how my life has completely changed, and I met my now husband because of that, getting out of my comfort zone in that element. So that was a big one. And then just moving across the country to New York was the first time I ever really left Oregon. And it was really scary. I didn't know, I think I knew two girls before I moved there. But just seeing all of the memories and experiences and getting away from home, I think those three moments just really strike me as I'm so glad you got out of your comfort zone for those.
Yeah, those are three big moments for sure, and you share a lot about in depth in your book. And so, again, I would just encourage anyone who wants to hear more, go buy the book, find it
Thank
anywhere
you.
that you can, because there are such great stories there. Last question of our big four, and I think of anyone that I have asked this question to on any of the podcast interviews that I've done with our former students, yours. Especially reading through the way that you experienced high school, both for good and bad. I'm really hanging on for this answer, and I not to set it up or put too much pressure on you, but if you could transform South or public education, the version of South certainly that you remember, but if you could transform our school in one way, what would you add? What would you change? What would you want our teachers to know as we're
Uh,
serving students?
Oh, that's a really good question. That's definitely a very loaded question. I think I was really lucky that, for the most part, all the teachers that I worked with were amazing. And I really felt like I left South in a place where I felt like I was set up for success. I felt like I was ready for college. Everything. So I will always be grateful for South and the way it was back in 2013. I don't know how much has changed since then, but I think if we just go back to those experiences that I had with the two teachers, I think just always educating yourselves. I think you're just gonna, I mean, I don't even know how many students you guys have now. It was 2,000 when I was going through, but that's 2,000 stories coming
2300.
through. 2,300 stories coming through every single day. And each year it's another new 500 stories coming in. And so I think just having an open mind and realizing that all of these students have such different perspectives on life, and they may be younger than you, but I think they are much more self-aware of everything going on. They can bring a lot of new experiences and stories and things for you to learn from. And I think that was just something I wish that maybe a few teachers did back then, was just take the time and ask questions. It might make your day a little bit longer, but you might be surprised what you can learn or walk away or apply to another student that you were not equipped to before that conversation. So I think just you're the teacher, but I think you can learn a lot from your students as well.
Oh, absolutely. And that's part of the goal of this podcast. Like I was saying when we first jumped on, was to connect those stories, that each and every student does have a story. Each and every teacher has a story. But we have this wide, uh, pot of students, former students who have graduated and moved on into the real world, that we're trying to take those stories and apply them and connect them to our current students so that they can see themselves in each other, and they can say, hey, here's someone who did it. Here's someone who's lived through this. Here's someone that has lived a similar life or is doing something that I want to do. And here's a pathway that's possible for me, and being able to see themselves in those future or the former Saxons, but see their future selves in them. We have found to be really powerful. So thank you for being that example. Thank you for being someone that our students can look up to and can connect to. And thank you for sharing what you have today. Few rapid fire questions. These ones are brought to us by a new sponsor that we have, which is Saucetown Properties. One of our former Saxons, Matt Cox, is running a investment real estate, speaking of investment company out of New York City, but doing it all over the country. And he decided he wanted to sponsor this podcast. So these rapid fire questions are brought to us by him and his company. I know you aren't in Salem much anymore, and your family's not here anymore. When you have come back to Salem, is there a favorite spot that you like to go to, or favorite restaurant, anything like that?
Yeah, so we always do a family dinner when we were visiting Salem at Basil and Board. I just absolutely love their food, the rooftop. But I know there are so many new restaurants in Salem that I've not been able to see, but Basil and Board is always a good place.
Yes, and rest in peace. Basil and Board just announced that they are closing, so they are no
No!
longer. They just got bought out by a California pizza company, not CPK, but there's a different
No!
California-based pizza company that's going to come in. Yeah, it's devastating. We love Basil and
Why do
Board,
all
and
good
yeah, we're
things
really
have to
sad.
come to an end? Well, scratch that one.
Right? I know. I know, I know, but
Yes.
we'll honor their memory, and absolutely is a great place to go. Yeah. How about favorite book? Anything that you like reading these days?
This might be a popular, unpopular, but I am reading It Ends With Us. I don't know if a lot of high schoolers are reading that one, but I kind of hopped on the bandwagon to read that one. Not finished yet, so don't
Just saw a
spoil
student.
anything.
Okay, I won't spoil it. My wife just finished it, and I just saw a student walk in the other day with it in hand, so I know that it is
Okay.
a popular one for sure.
Hmm.
Yeah. How about favorite TV show? Anything that you and Noah like to watch together, or you individually?
Yeah, so we are actually about to start the last season of Yellowstone. I don't know if that's a popular show with the students, but yes, we absolutely loved the first few seasons. So we're about to go back and rewatch all of them because I can't remember what happened, and to watch the last season.
Okay, wonderful. Any shout outs that you want to give?
Yeah, I was trying to think of some teachers that I had. It was so long ago. I had to text my sister and be like, because I'm such a visual person, I remember who everybody looks like, but just names are hard. But I'm not sure if like Mr. Chamberlain is still there, Mr. Burton, um, Axe, Mr. Erickson. Um, yeah, there were I mean, it was like seven teachers every year, but um, I was doing the IB program, so any of the IB teachers were amazing. Mr. Niemeyer, the science. So yeah, I don't know if they're all still there. They've kind of gone down a different path, but it was a really good group when we were there.
Yeah, so some of them are. Chamberlain's retired, Sax is retired. Both of them come back and help out, or either, Sax is often a sub
Oh,
for us.
cool.
And Erickson's here. In fact, just after you published your book, I was in Erickson's class talking, or in his office talking about this podcast, trying to get some ideas for it. And your book was on his counter, and I was like, well, she's one of the ones that we've already reached out to. So,
Oh, I was just saying,
yeah,
Mr.
yeah.
Erickson, I've been to my books in Salem, so he's always been a
Yes,
very big player.
yeah, for sure. Hey, as we finish, Abigail, is there anyone that you would recommend, any former Saxons you would recommend that we connect with next and have on the podcast?
Well, my sister, she's a year and a half older. She was also a Saxon alumni, and I will say, I think she was more involved than I was. I think overall, she just had a louder voice, I guess if you will, and during our South Salem days. Alistair and Stuart, my younger brothers as well. I've kind of lost touch with a lot of people from South Salem, just moving away and whatnot. So keeping it in the family.
Of that, I will take any one of the Herringers. Susie could even jump on too. I always
Well, there
enjoyed
you
talking
go.
with her. She's wonderful. Abigail, thank you so much for your time today. I want to end on this, just another excerpt from your book, if that's okay.
Of
Uh,
course.
Even though I may always carry the label of the deaf girl, I've come to realize that I'm more than that. I am Abigail, a woman of strength and with a voice of resilience and courage. This realization didn't happen overnight, nor was it perfect, but what's important is it has brought me to where I am today. Through these pages, I hope to empower others to embrace their truth, to stand tall in the face of adversity, and to live boldly and unapologetically in who they are, just as I have learned to do. I can't think of a more fitting way for you to end your book, especially having read it both, in writing, but also kind of piecemealed it through with listening to it the way that I did, hearing your story and hearing you talk in such depth about your experiences. To end in that, like, as a reader, I just can't affirm how true that was. And it was a moment as I listened to you say those words, you yourself read them, and speak them out. Just such an honor to hear you say that, given all that your journey has already been and covered. And also what a gift to those who are going to find your book or who already have. To our students, we're going to place your book out in the front of our office and be able to give it away to any students that or families that would be interested in hearing more about your story or connect to your story. I think it's just such a powerful gift to those who are looking to find their own identity, whether it's with a disability or not. There's so much, as you mentioned, that is that connects on a deeper human level for anyone. So thank you for that. Thank you for your time today. You've been so generous with it and with your stories. We appreciate you. We're grateful for you. Thanks for jumping on.
Thanks for having me, Brian. This was really fun.
Well, that's it for today's episode. I can't thank Abigail enough for jumping on and sharing a bit of her story and her life with us. Thanks so much for tuning in and listening. We've got a great few episodes coming your way in the next couple of weeks, so stay tuned. Lots to be excited about. But thanks again to Abigail. Thanks again to Saucetown Properties and Matt Cox over there. And thanks to the Saxon Success Fund for making this all possible. And finally, we want to thank the Clippian and our broadcast journalism program. Mr. Erickson has been extremely helpful with setting up these podcasts and these interviews and making it all possible. Go Saxons!